Hello, have you wanted to learn languages? I know I learned some French back in high school. Can I speak it now? Probably not. I can understand a little bit of it, but I've lost definitely a ton of it. So I am so envious of people like Michelle who can speak multiple languages. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do and how they can find you.
Hi everyone. My name is Michelle, and I'm from Italy. Besides my my really not Italian accent when I speak English, I know, um, but I can speak with my hands, of course.
The typical Italian, like
Yeah, I'm really Italian because of that. I speak a lot with my hands, so bear with me during this live. But well, yeah, as you already told, I'm Michelle. I'm from Italy, so therefore my mother tongue is Italian. I have been studying English since I was a child, basically, and now I'm 25. I also graduated and did a master degree in languages and cultures for communication in English and Japanese. But throughout my life, and especially thanks to the school system, I know this might be weird to hear, but I learned French, Spanish, of course, English, French, Spanish, German, Japanese, and also self studying Portuguese and Korean. When I have time, of course, because.
just in your spare time, just a couple more languages to pick up. That's amazing. My nephew is kind of similar. Um, he speaks fluent French, I mean, and obviously English because that's where he's from. But he's been learning Spanish. Like his fiance is actually now from Mexico. So he speaks
Awesome.
fluent Spanish. He's learning Japanese and Korean. And he just kind of really picks that up too. But for someone like me who maybe can't like pick it up as easily, we've got some great advice for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I think that it's once you get the system hacked, more or less is almost the same. It really depends the language you're tackling with. But if there's passion here, anything is possible. Basically, for some people might be easier. For some people might be a little bit more difficult. Time wise, situations might happen. Life gets in between. Therefore, our learning approach might differ. The time that we can dedicate to this passion might differ compared to other people. Therefore, each journey is unique, and that's the gem, the thing that I always repeat in my community. So literally, your language journey is yours and only yours.
Now, I didn't send you this question, but just as we were talking, as we are getting to know each other, it made me think, do you think there is less of an emphasis to speaking multiple languages, like here in the States, than
Hmm.
in like somewhere like Europe? Because I see multiple people in Europe speaking multiple languages, but
Hmm.
usually we're only speaking English or maybe a second language. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Well, if you're part of if you were born in a country that is part of the EU, studying two languages at school that are not yours, basically not your mother tongue, is mandatory. And one, of course, is English, and then there's another one that you have to pick up. But this usually is one of the most popular, like German, French, or Spanish. But depending also on your neighboring country, it might happen that you have to learn the other language as well. Like I know, for example, that Finnish people learn Swedish as well. I'm not really sure, but some schools do. Or maybe here in Italy, we also have a very huge diversity in dialects and languages. So, like for example, Sardinian, our island, Sardinia, for example, has its own language. It's not even a dialect.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, we are naturally, because of our history, because of our geography, we're naturally exposed to many other different languages. Like, consider the map of Europe, for example. It's basically the same in size, more or less, as the US, but there are more than 30 countries in it. Well, the US is a big monolithic square where everyone was, everyone speaks the English there. Of course, with immigration and all the other cultural things, there it's basically the bad. It reminds me of school days, but we see the US as a big melting pot, but in reality Europe is almost basically the same, if not even more.
Right. Yeah,
Basically,
it's almost like if each individual state had their own language. I mean, if you go to the South,
basically.
it almost sounds like another language, but
Yeah, it's
but
true, it's true.
yeah, so I can see how that would lend itself more to learning more languages because I'm surrounded by it more, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And also because part being part of the European Union is also about preserving all the different languages. So it's literally like a law. Every single language, like the official languages of a state, are recognized and protected languages by the EU. Therefore, it's easier to make them spread. And of course, nowadays with access to technology and stuff like that, it's even better. It's basically, it's like when you unlock a new level in a platform game. You basically unlock the final, and literally there's the final world, and there's everything at your disposal on the internet.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Mm.
So what is your favorite language to speak or listen to? And if they're different, I'd love to hear that.
Okay, so I love all the languages. Honestly, if I could, I would listen to all day. But if I have to pick one, is like my the one that if I could forget, well, if like a genius or something comes will cut at me and like, you can speak and hear just one language, you have to pick one,
Yeah.
I would choose Japanese.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Japanese is literally my favorite. I really like the sounds of a language in general. I
Mm.
usually start learning a language because I like how it is, the phonetics, how it's structured. I really like how I hear it. And when I try to repeat the sounds myself, I find my voice comfortable in it. I don't know. It's like melting my voice and my personality into a new language. And I think that Japanese is the one that makes my heart really skip a beat, like
Oh, that's
every time. Yeah,
that my daughter echoes that statement. She's currently in high school, but she is taking Japanese. So next year will
great.
be her second year of Japanese, but she loves that language as well.
Yeah, because personally speaking, it's not only about pop culture, because definitely is the first meeting that you encounter as a Japanese language lover. Um, and of course, I am fascinated by Japanese pop culture as
Yeah.
well. Myself, of course, I would be an hypocrite not telling that. But seriously, the sound of the language, and I consume a lot of Japanese music, even though it's not the usual mainstream one, or maybe, yeah, I really like it. And when I hear it, it's like, this is my gem, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, same with my daughter. She listens to a lot of Japanese music as well. Most of the time I have no idea what her music is saying, but she loves it. So aside from like just being part of the EU and like naturally being around other languages, is there anything else that kind of made you really interested in learning multiple languages?
Well, there's actually an actor. That's English word. It's so difficult.
You're doing great.
There's a story behind it. Let's say it like that. There's
Yeah.
a story behind it, and basically, it's all thanks to my parents. They are monolingual. They're basically like U.S. citizens. They only speak Italian. They tried to learn a little bit. My mom French when she was in middle and high school,
Yeah.
and a little bit of English. My dad, but they never found them, useful or interesting. It was also the 80s and 90s, therefore also it was different back then.
Yeah.
There was not also countries where like enclosures, they basically lived only by themselves. There was no that kind of connectivity, and especially back
Mhm.
when the world was basically split in two in terms of influences. And so they encouraged me a lot in trying my best with languages, and thanks to their will to travel abroad a lot, because we used to spend a classical 2 week long vacation, 1 year in Spain and 1 year in Greece, and we none of us could speak
Yeah.
any of the local language. Therefore, we tried our best with English, and they pushed me like, Michelle, try at least you, because we cannot. You're so young and you can do it. And so I tried myself a little bit, and I was like, okay, English will help me connecting me with new people, and finally um, understand what is going on, and connect with the local communities a little bit, because I saw that they were trying also their best to speak, because Spain and Greece are not definitely countries, especially when it was like 2003 and 4. English was not really that common also back in the days. But also when I was trying to call my grandparents back at home, there were like the public telephones, and they were only in Spanish and Catalan, because we were in a Catalan speaking area. And I was trying, literally, I understood that I had to put the Spanish version in order for me to understand a little bit better. And then I figured it out on my own. Therefore, these kind of experiences that really made me understand that languages were not the barrier. I literally understood that that is what I want to do. I want to learn languages because I really want to get myself close to
Mhm.
this kind of reality.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. I love that. Um, I so you never learned Greek or anything, or
No, Greek, no.
Gr-
Just a couple random words,
sure.
but
My
nothing more.
friend my friend actually spent 2 years in Greece, and he
Oh.
speaks Greek, but, I obviously, I know, like, this much French, and that's about it. So is it hard to keep them straight? Like, so for example, I was a roommate in college. My roommate, she is native Spanish. So she's from South America. And like she'd be on the phone with her daddy and it would be like, but dad, I don't want to. But no, seriously. Like, and so it was all this like English mashed in with the Spanish. And so like,
Mhm.
do you do that? Like, do you
Ooh,
throw things
yeah.
in?
Yeah, I randomly throw English in my Italian, or maybe some
Yeah.
Spanish, or maybe even with my Spanish friend, I throw in all the other languages. Even Japanese, I throw in at
Yeah.
times. But it's not a thing of keeping them separated because I want to be perfect.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a familiar situation, like for example, speaking to your significant other, or maybe to a friend or stuff like that, is put in the things that you are most comfortable with. Maybe there are concepts that do not exist in your native language, but if in another language might fit the situation very well, and you just throw it in. Like, for example, um, what you said about your former roommate in college. Like, but dad,
Yeah.
that is what a lot of people get from American movies, or maybe
Oh,
American
sure.
TV shows, and they really stress on this kind of feelings. English to me as well is really sassy.
Yeah.
Like, I use English in order to also in my daily life, in order to be a little bit more sassy, or maybe even as well to convey a kind of message.
Sure.
Because in Italian, just it doesn't come up very well in terms of the pronunciation, the sounds of the language, the intention that you put into it. um Even, for example, when it comes to posting content on Instagram, for example,
Mhm.
I mainly share about my life as content creator and as language learner, but I find it very difficult to do in Italian, because I'm so accustomed and I'm so used to use English as a mean to be around everyone and communicate with everyone and be understood by basically everyone, that if I were to do that in Italian, I wouldn't even know what the words are. I cannot translate them, or maybe
Mhm.
the message that I want to convey doesn't. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not. So it's not a thing about setting them straight, the languages, and getting things right because you want to be perfect and you want to be proficient.
Mhm.
Especially for me, it's all about the feelings that I want to convey, and this is why I mix them in my conversations.
Yeah, that actually makes total sense because and I'm translating it into for me, it's like responding with a GIF. Like I could type my response, but like a GIF just says it exactly the way I want it to say.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah,
same feeling.
right. I'm like, yeah, no, this GIF totally conveys exactly my feelings about this. So I'm just gonna post that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It just basically works like that.
Yeah,
Same way.
that's awesome. So are there languages that are easier to start with? So say I'm a native English speaker, which most of my audience is. What where would I start if I want to get started?
Okay, the answer is yes, but because
Yes,
yeah,
but
there are. It's always basically
right.
yes, but of course there are easier languages because it all depends your background.
Yeah.
Because it really depends what is your native language, and maybe if you had already some connections with another one, maybe if part of your family has some ancestry from other countries as well. Well, the US is basically
Yeah.
it's
All
full
of
of.
us are from other countries.
Exactly, exactly. Therefore
Except for the
maybe you
Native
have.
Americans. They were here. But
Exactly. Um, or maybe you have a grandparent that still remembers a little bit of the mother tongue. Like this happens with many Italo Americans as well. But even with families of Asian descendants, like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Vietnamese, or Thai people, there are many, especially in the East Coast of the US. Um, Therefore, it really makes the difference your starting point. So really depends on that.
yeah.
For English native speakers that basically have no access to other languages already in their family or maybe in their close friends niche, definitely languages that are pretty kind of similar because they might have the same sentence structure, or maybe there are words in common. Like for example, English is a mixture between a little bit of Latin, a little bit of Greek, but majorly Latin, I would say,
Yeah.
um, and Germanic languages.
Mhm.
Therefore, these two big families are definitely the most accessible ones to native English speakers. And also, of course, Spanish. Spanish, you have Mexico
Right.
right, right behind you, basically.
Yeah.
And you also have French, if you think about Quebec.
Yeah, if you're like in Maine or Vermont or something.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Or yeah, definitely. Maybe New York State, and you're
Right.
there in Vancouver, basically. So you have to think also about these things. Or maybe if you have a local community that is around you, like for example, let's give an example. You're from the Los Angeles area. Definitely Asian languages can be a huge go-to because you have Little Tokyo, Chinatown, you have Koreatown, you have basically a whole enclave into your own country of another country, and everything's in their language as well, in the native language as well.
Yeah.
And especially in the US, I think at least for someone who has been in the US and so knows a little bit about how things work there, seeing if I were an immigrant, like for example a Chinese immigrant, seeing someone from a country that is basically giving me has given me a lot of opportunities and everything, and is really genuinely interested and comes to me that basically I'm a native speaker and I have knowledge and I have access to the knowledge that we want to share, that is like when you create the best relationships. So it really depends on you, your background, and what you like, of course. Because easier languages are a thing, but do you really like them?
Yeah.
Do you really like one of them?
Yeah, and that's where you go. That's a really good point that I love that you said there is, they really want to share their culture and and their language. And if you're going to show interest in that, that is going to create a bond with them. It just reminds me of this YouTuber. I'm sure you follow the YouTuber that speaks really good Chinese. I can't remember his name, but he's
Mm,
got millions upon millions of followers. But he learns like, he's got, like, impeccable Chinese, and he'll go to, like, Chinatown and, like, order things
Mhm.
in this like perfect Chinese, and like they're always just like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
But even not about YouTubers, like for example, I know it's kind of a meme, but even John Cena, for the former wrestler,
Yeah.
he he tries. He admitted as well that he tries to speak Chinese, and even when he was doing WWE, I know there was a show and that, but he at least tried to say some things in proper Chinese. That is how you show respect as
Right.
well. Um, when there's really genuine feeling behind wanting to share and wanting to say, hey, I'm trying my best to connect with you, would you like to connect with me as well, through
Mhm.
your language, through your culture, through your history? I'm here to listen. That's what people want to hear basically when they are on the other side, or maybe when there are Italo Americans that maybe want to learn about Italy, want to learn about Italian and stuff like that, and they really want to get that level of Italian before asking for the citizenship as well. um, that is what really makes our heart warm, because this is our specific example. But if you have Italian grandparents or maybe great grandparents, you can ask for the citizenship. And actually, many Americans get that, but they don't even know where Italy is, or maybe they do not know any Italian. And it's really sad, because we have other situations going on in our country as well,
Sure.
where people were born here but still don't have the citizenship. But really, when there's the joy of discovering your roots, that's when we are like, I will throw at you basically all the dictionaries that I have at home and help you out, because
Yeah.
it's about the power of connections, basically.
Yeah. I love that. So, are there any language apps that are your
Mhm.
favorites that help you, like, that can help someone like me learn?
Oh, well, this is a very serious topic with me, because I don't really like apps.
Nice. I love it.
um, but because there are generic ones that might be good, but as I said, they're generic.
Mhm.
Therefore, even the learning curve or maybe the whole experience is a little bit different. Um, my favorite way to learn a language is to grab a very um this might be very boomer of me, even though I'm a Gen
A
Z.
25-year-old boomer. This is great.
Yeah, but just for that,
Yeah.
grab a textbook, grab a good grammar book that will give you the solid foundations of how you want to structure your sentences, and then grab yourself and throw everything that you have into immersion. So just consume the language. Maybe watch YouTube in that target language, or maybe read what you might watch on maybe Instagram or TikTok on social media. Turn that and translate it into your language. Maybe you're interested in interior design. You watch that in English. Might Maybe you can look for interior design accounts in Spanish,
Yeah.
because this way you also immerse yourself into something that you already like. And of course, when you want to have a conversation with a native, or maybe you want to write with a native like Chad, you already have the knowledge of what you would like to speak about, to write about. So you're already talking about yourself. You're getting things that you want to know, but apps are too generic for that. They're too impersonal, in my opinion. So that's why I always suggest, like, grab a book, a good one that is basically like the spine of your body, and then build around it with immersion. So just grab the language, everything you might do in your native one, therefore in English, try and do that in Spanish. For example, this is a very stupid thing, but I really like it. Um, I really like watching, those kind of programs like where there's a judge that has to decide whether to give the fine or not. But caught in Providence, kind of.
Yeah, no, I
Or
love courtroom drama, like, not drama, but, like,
but
I
that
love
that
watching actual courtroom, like, interactions.
well, I watch a program on YouTube because it's in the US.
Yeah.
But I watch it in Spanish.
Smart.
So just translate your life, basically. That's more or less this my system. I really like watching cartoons. I used to watch Japanese cartoons dubbed in Italian. Now I watch them in Japanese. Of
Right.
course, that is like the most mainstream thing that you can do in Japanese. But um, I really like singing. I used to do that a lot in English, and this is a way I learn English as well. I do it in Japanese as well.
Mhm.
I just sing along all the time, maybe when I'm in my car, and then I recognize the words like, this is the word that I recognized the other day that I met in the flashcards, so that is this one. Let's analyze the sentence, and then the brain automatically goes in sway because
Yeah.
it's already it's like a stimuli. You're trying to recreate the same environment when you started learning English when you were a child. You're
Right.
just surrounded with it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so much better. And so my nephew, I think I already said, like, he is really good at different languages as well. And he has a similar outlook where, you can learn it better by just talking to other people in that language. And that's actually how he met his fiance. They met on like an app where you can like just chat with native speakers of that language. And he was trying to learn Spanish and
Mm-hmm.
you know, m started talking with her and they ended up like, hooking up, but so, um
Sometimes it happens like that as well.
right. Yeah, so I love that, but I love, like, whatever you're already interested in, just consume that content in the new language and, like and go from there. That like, seriously, never even crossed my mind, but it's amazing. So, thank you for that.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad because seriously, it's overlooked. You always think about language studies if you're in a hurry with apps or maybe the traditional way, studying so many hours, sitting at the desk, more academic style. But actually, language learning can be so much fun. I actually personally love studying grammar from textbooks or maybe courses, but that's because I'm kind of geeky on
Yeah.
that side. But seriously, just staying there watching my YouTube videos, maybe about, I don't know, vlogs about trips or maybe courtroom sessions in Spanish. Uh, and it's called Caso Cerrado. Just telling because it's available on the US
Yeah.
TV. I'm just telling
Nice.
for the audience if they know or maybe they're interested in.
Yeah.
Um, I watched that kind of stuff already. So I watched it in Italian. Why shouldn't I watch it in another language? Basically.
Sure. Well, and you reminded me, I used to watch telenovelas with my roommate, and obviously I didn't know anything like that they were saying, but I'd be like, okay, what'd they say? Okay, now what happened? Like, but it was a lot of fun to like, and we got really into these telenovelas. Like, I was super obsessed, even though like I really had no idea like what they were
What was
saying.
going on?
Yeah. But it was so fun. So how much time should I try and dedicate to learning a new language? If like, okay, I'm gonna start learning a new language. Like, what time per day should I like really be looking at that?
Ooh, to be honest, this really varies because we always think about language learning as something that we must do, we should do, but we should why not transform it into something that we want to do?
Mhm.
It's a little bit different the mindset and the approach because um for example, I don't usually spend all days and almost every day of the week studying languages because I have a 9 to 5. um I also have a house to run and stuff like that, and I'm multi passionate. I want to do other things as well, and therefore my energies and my time run out. So instead of how can I study languages in terms of time of, is there space for this kind of thing in my life? Do I really want to do that? Depends. To
Mm.
be honest, for me, it depends. There are days that I want to study. There are other days that I want to study. Of course, that's a big disclaimer. If you're staying consistent, you will see the results a little bit late, a little bit earlier, of course. And especially if you're just focusing on one single language. Because if you're focusing your attention, your brain, your energies on a single thing, of course you will see the progress um, earlier, and probably you will notice it like prominently. But if you just have to spread your focus also on other things, of course that time and the energy is reduced. But you don't have to feel guilty, because the thing is, guilt, oh, maybe I should have done that, but you didn't want to.
Right.
It's not only about motivation, it's about following instinct. We are basically animals at heart. We maybe there are days that we don't want to study, or maybe there are days we want to study 3 4 hours. I personally, after many years of studying languages and also being in academia doing that, um my biggest tip about the amount of time is dedicate the amount of time that you want to dedicate.
I love it.
Because life may change. Maybe you have a plan and maybe your life gets upside down, and then you feel guilt because you couldn't. But it's okay, because your focus and you as a person were needed on other things. Maybe because you wanted, or maybe because you didn't want. But languages are there for a lifetime. Therefore, it's not something that runs out. You will never run out of languages, of time to study
Right.
a language,
Yeah.
if you want to. Maybe even just 5 minutes when you don't feel like it, or passive immersion, or maybe just doing something that you like, for example, like immersion, like I said before.
Mhm.
And try maybe have a contact with the language every day, just to not let it, go away. But first, dedicate to the things that you need to do, because languages are always there.
Yeah.
And um, just really depends. If you want to go into hard mode, you're welcome. But if you want
Yeah.
to take a chill, nah, no one will care, actually.
Right. That's awesome. So speaking of that, you said it'll go away. What if you're like me? Like I used to be able to read like a full book, have a conversation in French, couldn't do it for the life of me anymore. So, what about someone like me who used to have a pretty good grasp of the language? So, I'm not going to need to start from scratch, but where do I go from here, and like how do I get that skill back?
Hmm. I noticed that myself as well with French. The knowledge is actually there.
Mhm.
You all, but people always underestimate themselves, and I used to underestimate myself when it came to French, and when it comes to French. But I can actually manage business conversations on the phone in full French, and I
Mhm.
haven't touched a book for 10 years almost.
Wow.
Of course, I'm advantaged because I speak fluent Spanish, and I'm advantaged because I'm Italian. Therefore, of course, I'm aware of this personal advantage with this language. But really, the knowledge is there. The thing is that we just need the stimuli. And how can we get this stimuli back? Doing the things that we like. You used to read a book, maybe try short stories first. Just maybe if you were at step 3, do step 2.
Sure.
Just a little bit above, a little bit less than before,
Mhm.
but it's there. It's just that we're always so used to be humble, and also be insecure with ourselves. Maybe I cannot write a business letter, because writing for me is also one of the skills that I really don't like practicing that much. I
Sure.
prefer I prefer speaking. Therefore, there's a natural lack and difference between these two skills. But if I read it, especially, it's there. And another thing, passive skills are always higher than active skills. Passive skills are reading and listening, because you grab the information and you elaborate it, while active um, skills are writing and speaking, because there you have to think what you want to say, or maybe write, and you have to do the output.
Right.
And it's more than normal that these two skills are usually lower than the other two,
Yeah.
because it's easier to understand rather than elaborate
Yeah.
and output it.
Yeah, that's exactly true. I worked at Disney World for, but this was, 20 years ago. And a couple came up to me and asked if, and this is closer in time to when I was actually speaking French. But they asked if I spoke German. And I said, oh, no, sorry, I don't. But then they asked if I spoke French. And I'm like, oui, je parle un peu de français. Like, and I could totally understand what they were asking me, but I couldn't come up with the words to like say anything back. I'm just like,
Mhm.
they're over there. Like I totally knew what you were saying, but I couldn't come up with those words. So you saying that those are two different like skills, like yes, 100%.
Yeah, they require different effort.
Mhm.
That's real easy. And just as I said, really, in my opinion, immersion is the best method. You usually do something in that language, translate it into French. Maybe about the courtroom sessions that we love,
Yeah.
that we share,
Yeah.
watch them in French.
Right. That's awesome. So I did see a post of yours about an energy menu. So
Yeah.
I really want you to explain what that is and how it relates to learning this new skill like language.
Well, it's idea that actually I got introduced by one of my internet best friends. It's called Race Tea. Um, they introduced me to this kind of time management thing, but it's all about energy because we're maybe this is a little bit sad to say, but we're like cell phones, we're like mobile phones, we're like smartphones. I said a very 90 word. I'm a 1980s baby, therefore we still have mobile and cell phones back in the days in the 2000s. Um, but we have a battery that
Mhm.
lasts not even a whole day because we need rest as well. Therefore, and besides the physical energy, we also have a mental energy. There are days maybe that we are feeling extremely active. We want to be uh, in the zone for studying like the old way in a more hardcore mode. Other days we just want to chill because we feel drained by the other things of the day and of the life, of course. And therefore, building an energy menu is something that can help you not even think about what you want to do. So basically, an energy menu is creating a set of tasks, in this case, language learning wise, that require different levels of energy. Maybe um, watching a video for 5 minutes might be low energy, or writing 2 lines about my day might be medium energy because I really don't like writing. And another one is having an hour long grammar or maybe vocab study session for high energy days. And what you can do with this energy menu is depending on how you feel like, you already have a set of tasks that you can do depending on how you feel. Maybe you have low energy, you have a set of tasks that you can do and not feel guilty that you skipped a day. Or maybe you already had a rough week when it comes to consistency, and you can like choose or maybe come up with a new activity inspired from that and do that. Or maybe combine the different levels and the different tasks. If you're really extreme, if you're feeling extremely active and you want to really dig into the language learning session. So it's basically it's nothing really that difficult. Maybe to explain a little bit, but to see it also visually is not really that complicated because you have to come up with your own ideas. Because for maybe something that for me is medium or high maintenance in terms of energy, for someone might be something extremely easy to do. I really hate writing, but maybe someone else likes writing, and this might be something that they can do in their low energy. Sorry, yeah, in their
Yeah.
low energy days because they just really enjoy it. That they just do it like so naturally, and it's like no effort. While for me, sitting there thinking about the word and sentence structure and combining them like a puzzle, that for me is really draining. And therefore, more or less, is like that the energy management menu. You have to choose what the task you want to do, you prepare everything in advance, and depending how you feel like. You can have like an access of to you can have access to different tasks and keep going with your language studies.
Yeah, I love that. Hang on just 1 second. Sorry, my son was practicing the flute all of a sudden, like during.
One people practice languages and some other
Right,
practice music. And I used to do both.
right. I'm like, oh, suddenly I'm hearing a flute. Yeah, sorry about that. So
Kids
another
are
thing,
so random.
I know. Uh, but I love that idea with an energy menu, like of okay, these are things I can handle on my low energy days. These are things I can handle on my high energy days. That is, I love that concept. So I really wanted you to talk about it because I saw that. Another thing you're talking about on your social platforms is creating a study account. And I think we've kind of touched on this already with how we're consuming the content in like
Hmm.
in a different language, but go into a little bit more about what you mean by this study account and
Hmm.
how it helps as well.
Well, it really helps, in my opinion, having a study account. Uh, Choose your favorite platform because basically there are people um, sharing about their studies and then sharing about their languages studies are basically everywhere. Even the old-fashioned Tumblr is
Yeah.
still pretty active in terms of study blur community. Language-wise, Twitter and Instagram are definitely the best. I see a rising in the trend in language learning things and study in TikTok as well, because people as human being, especially when it comes to this kind of activities like languages, we are naturally inclined to share about it because maybe we can find new friends that are learning the same language, so we can team up, study together, share about our experiences, or maybe like friends. So getting new friends, like you are classmates because you're studying the same thing. But it's also one of the best ways to meet natives because maybe you are someone from the US who is studying Spanish and wants to share about the progress. But there are also many Spanish students or maybe Spanish people in general because there are many also not so young people, I would say, many adults
Yeah.
and even people in their 60s as well really want to share about their progress as well when it comes to maybe English because they've never studied in school that well and maybe they're from a Spanish speaking country or vice versa. Therefore, social media and the rise of using internet for studying languages really had an effect on the whole community and the whole way we study and approach languages. And languages were made to communicate. Therefore, creating an account or maybe just sharing about the progress with the language is one of the most common things that we're inclined to because this way we can make friends, like as I said already, like the classmates that we basically share the journey together. But also it's like the language exchange thing. Maybe you or like with your son, for example, or your nephew. Don't remember. No,
My
your
nephew.
nephew.
My
Your
nephew,
nephew.
yeah.
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 um, Through this passion of languages, they actually ended up together.
Right. Yeah, my sister showed up for a second too, so she's like, "This is her. He's really good from young age. He used to make his own flashcards with foreign words on it." So that's the same guy, but um, anyway, I love what you were saying there with these study accounts, and when I saw you post about that, um, totally makes sense, because sometimes you don't wanna clutter up, like, your main like, if I'm logging into Instagram, I wanna see what my friends are doing or things like
Hmm.
that, like, I'm not really in this, like, study mode, But then if I toggle over to like my study account, then all of a sudden I'm following, people that are speaking French and other people learning French and things like that, where it's just all about French. And like, I love that kind of like separating my life out like that. I separate my life out a lot with other things.
No, I totally get it, because also, yeah, might not not many people really understand it, especially when it comes to monolingual countries. And I speak from a like from the perspective of a very monolingual country, because Italy, um, it really is really behind when it comes to language learning. Um, but really, doing a separate account, posted in English, because I wanted to improve it and wanted to connect with other people, because in my area there was no one that could understand me. And like, hey, what do you do for hobby? Hey, I stay at home and study languages. What? Why are you not going to clubs?
Right.
They're so boring. Uh, but thanks to my studygram account, because I really loved taking photos of, going to university. I was also, someone was like, oh my gosh, I moved to another city, to the big city, because I am originally from a small town in the countryside in another area. Therefore, oh, I moved to Milan. I'm studying Japanese, the language of my dreams,
Yeah.
and I really want to share it. Oh, no one's basically doing the same faculty, because the college that I attended was a little bit different than the conventional languages and translation.
Mhm.
Oh, maybe there might be someone from my school, maybe from others, that has the same thing. Why try now? And for the curiosity, also really helps when it comes to this kind of things. You have to be a little bit naturally inclined to wanting to share. And but I guess this is very um, natural. It comes natural to language learners, because unless they're extremely introvert, we're all a little bit extrovert. Everyone is a little bit extrovert if they learn languages, because they're naturally inclined to wanting to share and communicate with the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, the last kind of thing I wanted to touch on, I saw this post of yours. It's kind of like your method for learning a new language, and you had a few steps. I'd love to, like, if you could just go through the steps really quick and kind of what they're all about.
Okay, so this was probably a little bit old, but I'm trying to reconnect with what I said. But the main steps, like for example, I would like to start Mandarin Chinese really soon. And the first thing that I would do, therefore the steps that I also suggested in my post, definitely getting used to the language. The first thing that you have to do is not like, okay, I'm gonna impulse buy everything that I can find about this language and start from zero and doing it. No, I want to take it chill. I want to get to know the language, because languages are like people. They are spoken by people. You want to get to know them a little bit first to see if you match,
I
if
love
you
that.
vibe with this person. So definitely when I will start studying Mandarin, I would like to take my time and see how the language is structured. If I like the sounds of the language, if I maybe repeat some sentences out loud, if I like how my voice sounds, or maybe if I like the way this language works and stuff like that. So it's like getting to know each other. It's like going on a date. First you have to get to know the other person, because you cannot just go straight into the relation. Or it might happen that you might burn out with the language as well if you just jump straight into it. And then building my foundation with my method, a good grammar book for the good textbook for the grammar and for the other things, like the spine of my learning, and then build around it with lots of immersion. Even though if I don't understand, it's not the point. The point is that I have to get used to the language, because when you're a child, when you're 3 year old, maybe you don't understand what your grandparents are talking about, even in English.
Right.
You don't know all the language, all the words. You don't know everything, every single nuance. but it's okay because you learn that with time. And therefore, the more you start building with patience, because that's what many people lack of, is patience. You have to be like a little um, baby Yoda. You have to be there and try your best and get all the energies to, okay, I don't understand this, but if I were a 3-year old kid, even if I were, for example, my son, I wouldn't understand everything that I'm talking about. Maybe with dad, with my partner, stuff like that. So it's also a matter of mindset and acceptance that mistakes and not knowing everything are actually it's like the spaces in between where we can fill the gap of the knowledge. But there are times that you can do that. Maybe there are times that you cannot do that. Yeah. So it's really a lot about mindset as well. And then I would definitely start um, doing some output. Uh, yeah, make patience our best friend. And I'm really impulsive. I'm a very impulsive person, but I really had to make peace with myself. I'm like, okay, I'm studying that many languages. I cannot be fluent in this one if it's really different from my native one in a year. That's impossible. Maybe you can do that with Portuguese, but because I'm Italian, I speak Spanish, and I speak French. You have to be really realist when it comes to languages, because it's not a matter of no being realist is all about protecting yourself. It's not about diminish or also take like underestimate you and your knowledge and your capabilities. Is about protecting yourself, protecting your passion, protecting your hobby, and really take it chill. That's the really biggest tip that I can share with other, because it's easy to get caught up in the momentum, in the new thing, in in this really big thing, but it will burn you. And it's, trust me, that I have been through this for since basically I was 6 years old, and did it with multiple languages, because I was almost on the verge of dropping Japanese at university. I was really way like, I cannot do this anymore, because especially academia um, is not the way I usually approach languages. In my university, basically everything has had to be learned by heart, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm slower. I'm on the slower side of learners, but when I understood, I have another grasp of the language, like a more natural one.
Right.
And that's it. It's all about getting to know yourself, how you learn, what you want to do with the language, and adapt your studies to you and not you to the studies.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. This is kind of like talking back from what we were talking about earlier, but native speakers are so forgiving of people just trying to speak their language. And when they went to Mexico, people were so helpful and patient with us. Um, I think that's something we touched on earlier, where they're just excited that you're trying and like they can see the effort that you're putting in to speak their language.
Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to someone who is a native from a country, they might oh they might also fear as well. Mm, there are people who are like have some feelings toward other people from other countries because they're so maybe scared of what they see and the stereotypes.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not really that easy also to be um that open-minded,
Hmm.
even when you're a native and you're seeing someone else, because maybe you have been kind of traumatized by other experiences. It's like, oh no, they're mocking me. This
Right.
is so weird, um and it makes me feel uncomfortable. But when you see there's someone on the other side who is really genuinely trying their best, even with difficulty, and say, oh, like, I'm sorry, I'm trying, but it just doesn't come up. Like I'm feeling embarrassed myself. It's like that moment of it's not pity. It's just, what if I were in the other situation? What if I was one that was in difficulty because I couldn't really understand or maybe have a good knowledge of the language and I cannot speak with the other one? So really, native speak. Of course, it's like even with people from the same country, you will never know how people will react to other things. The important thing is to be kind and open-minded and accepting. You have a little bit generous, with your emotions as well. But definitely, when you're in the community, like internet space, this is one of the safest space I've ever like belonged to. Of course, there are people who are extremely mean as well, but it's the internet.
It's the internet.
It's the internet. Do you really care about someone who doesn't show their face and not even their name? Personally, I don't care. Like
Right.
I have been mocked a little bit, but seriously, at least I try.
Right.
you know.
I think that's one area. Well, I mean, there's a lot of areas where people from the United States can improve, but where people from the United States can really show that grace to other people who are trying to learn English too. So I am the head of tech support for a Wi-Fi router company. Most of my techs are in the Philippines, and they do their job in English, and the amount of people who like, can I just have somebody who speaks English? I'm like, they speak really good English. And you're not appreciating the fact that like they do their job in a completely different language than their native language.
Yeah.
And like that should really be celebrated and like given grace. Like, oh, hey, like I know you're smart. You just don't have the same language skills that I do because I'm a native English speaker, and I
Yeah.
think giving that grace to people who are not native English speakers is something we can definitely improve on.
No, in fact, and another thing that I always say reconnected to this is as long as people can understand you, so they can get the core message out, you're fine. You
Right.
don't have to be perfect at all. Like, even tonight, I'm pretty sure I made my mistakes in English as well. I'm 100% sure because, of course, I don't breathe English
Right.
all day long. I don't wake up dreaming in English. Well, sometimes, yeah, but that's another thing. Um, well, sometimes it's written in English, but I don't do that every single day. I don't
Right.
speak with other people surrounding me in English every single day, 24/7. I do not come from an English speaking country and I come from a monolingual family.
Right.
But I try my best. I really like this language. I learned the hard way and I learned the really good way as well because I went to the US twice and once to the UK to really study, like
Yeah.
intensive courses. But I I'm pretty sure the chat and you understood me. Besides, I'm not a native English speaker.
Right.
So get your core message across, and you're done.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about that we missed, didn't cover?
No, well, actually, I think we cover almost everything. I'm so happy, and I really appreciate for this opportunity. And if you're into language learning, or maybe you would like ask me something a little bit more specific, my DMs are always open. I might not be the best at answering like immediately because of time zone
Time
difference
zones. Yeah.
and life.
Yeah.
That always gets in between. I always say that, but seriously, languages are not a subject, a school subject only. There's a whole world behind it because languages are connected to cultures, we're connected to people, we're connected to all humankind, basically. Therefore, think more about the potentialities behind language learning and encourage people do that. Not only because it's funny, not only because it can be a hobby, and it's a very good hobby. It's like on the healthy part of hobbies, but
Right.
seriously is it enriches you if you have the right mindset, the right also heart to this. It can be a life-changing experience, because for example, if I have never fallen in love with English, I wouldn't be here, for example,
Yeah.
together talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're not already following her on Instagram, it's super easy. Just Michelle Languages. That is how you will find Michelle. So definitely check her out on Instagram. And then your website is
Yeah,
michelle-languages.com.
exactly.
Yeah, so go check her out. She's got so much more information than we even covered here. So if you're interested in learning languages, definitely go follow your Polygot bestie. That's what I loved when I love in your profile, like your Polygot bestie. So thank you so much, Michelle.
No, thank you for having me. Really, best chat ever.
Thanks. And then we were running a very secret giveaway. So anybody who commented in the chat during the video was entered in to win. I did select a random chat and it was this one. So Joanna, congratulations. I will send you a $50 Amazon gift card. So just go ahead and send me an email at sarah@familytech.biz and I will get that sent over for you. So thank you so much for commenting and being here. And then we will go ahead and post this on our on my what's it called? My podcast next week. So this gets kind of edited down and posted on the podcast next week. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out Family Tech Talk. And that's it. So thank you so much again, Michelle, for being here. And Joanna, don't forget to send me that email.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.